name's John Weathersby. I'm the executive director of the StellarModal Transportation Association. I'd like to thank Tim and everyone for first hosting this and then allowing us to participate. StellarModal is we're a trade association, kind of like Foundation for the Future. And one of the things that that's critical in this business is facilitation and collaboration. And again, I'd like to tip my hat to Tim and his team for all the great work they do, and for allowing an environment where other groups can work collaboratively, because this market is too big, and the lift is too heavy for one entity to do it together. So I'm very thankful that we've all established this relationship. A little background real quick on StellarModal. I've had a lot of people ask what the term is. I was doing a project with some folks within the Department of Defense, and it was working with the Port of Gulfport, Mississippi. And we were trying to get the port designated as a strategic seaport. And I learned probably more than ever wanted to about the term intermodal transportation. And intermodal just simply means moving equipment or anything, any type of package supply, using various forms of communication: ship, truck, train, air. And as I started getting involved in the commercial space industry, I looked and said, well, space is just the next logical step. And so we just kind of crafted the term StellarModal. So what we do is we think that this is just a continuation of a well-established market and systems that are already there. And I just can't. It's hard to express how excited I was listening to the talks this morning. Dan, loved what you said on so many parts, and Brady, I think you're just it's inspirational to see, that smart, motivated, determined people in our society can just knock it out of the park if they put their shoulder to the wheel. So congratulations. All right, so one other thing about StellarModal is that when we started looking at the marketplace, and Dan alluded this earlier too about Moore's bell curve, and basically there's a section at the very early stage. It's called what is it? The Valley of Death. The marketplace, the commercial space marketplace, is very young. And you've got a lot of really smart people that are out there, and they're really excited about it. And they are throwing a lot of great ideas at the wall. And some of them are sticking, but a lot of them simply aren't going to stick because there's no market for it. You can have the greatest idea in the whole wide world, but if you don't have an audience, if you don't have a product, you don't have people that'll pay for it, then it's just that. And hey, Les. and so we started looking at the marketplace, and we said, okay, from our perspective, we want to focus on three very fundamental elements, and that is infrastructure, transportation, and supply chain. And while we as an organization can't fix it, what we can do is we can help stimulate thought and discussion, and hopefully put elements together that can help coalesce and move the development process of the market itself along just a little quicker. So in that, we see workforce as being the lifeblood for any part of an infrastructure element. It's the lifeblood and the sinew. It holds it together. And it reminds me of a joke somebody told me one time. Said, what are astronauts and Batman have in common? Well, obviously everybody wants to be Batman. Everybody wants to be an astronaut. Astronauts nowadays are they're the pop stars. But how many people does it take to put someone in orbit or farther and bring them back safely, or for mechanical research or development missions, all that. So the foundation, the number, the variety of people and elements and technologies and ideas that it takes to accomplish this mission today and in the future is so diverse and so broad. And a lot of times people get lost in chasing rabbits. And, right now, the stage of the marketplace, it's full of engineers, because engineers are approaching, they're trying to solve problems that are technical, mechanical, and, so it a lot of times the folks like the welders, like the trades, like the administrative, like the support elements, they get overlooked. And that's going to be the next real growth in this marketplace. All right, enough about that. We've got two really cool folks that are going to participate. The first one is Kristina Minyard, and she is from Huntsville. And as you know, Huntsville is a hot spot for aerospace. And then we got Les Davis, and Les is with the Tulsa Welding School. And I have a soft spot in my heart for Tulsa, because I've got 3 kids in college right now. And one of them came to me right out of high school, right when he graduated high school early. And he said, "Dad, I don't want to do the traditional college route. I want to get my welding certification." And I was absolutely thrilled, because I figured the worst case scenario, the kid's going to know a trade, and he's going to have the opportunity or a fantastic hobby, and I'm very hands-on myself, so I love it. And he won't let me play with any of the tools or anything, but he says I'll break it or hurt myself. It's probably true, but it's a lot of fun to think about. All right, what I want to do is start off with Kristina. And Kristina, I'd like for you to tell us who you are and what you do. You can do it a whole lot better than I can, and I'll try to be quiet for a minute.
Okay, great. So my name is Kristina Minyard. As John shared, I am located in Huntsville, Alabama. I have been doing technical recruiting and HR support for the space industry and DoD work for 15 years now. Right now, I'm actually running my own business doing recruiting consulting to help companies build a better recruiting strategy as the labor market changes rapidly, how companies can adapt and be competitive for talent.
Okay, so like I said, talk about Huntsville a little bit, because Huntsville is unique in that it has a history of having military, the Redstone Arsenal. It's got NASA component. It's now pulling in some really big. I think the FBI has a huge presence there now. The Space Systems Command, has it been confirmed that it's moving, or are they still wrangling over that? Do we know?
That's still a touchy topic, but we are acting as if it is ours.
Okay, but the point being that another was saying that you can only catch the fish that are in your pond. So you've got to have the resource base. You've got to have the people that can do the work in these skilled and trade areas. And y'all have been able to, as a community, pull that together.
Yeah.
Tell me about what are you seeing? What are the real hot topics in your area right now? What's growing? And just give us from a HR perspective, what's going on.
Sure. So I will give y'all a little bit of background about Huntsville. So I'm sorry, I'm just going to assume you guys don't know anything about us. So we like to joke that Huntsville is not like the rest of the state, but not in an offensive way, just in a, like, we have a way different focus then what comes to mind when you hear Alabama, right? Huntsville is right next to Redstone Arsenal, which is, a huge, huge military support system that brings a lot of work to our community. Like he said, we have NASA, we have all of the big players in the DoD. Over the last 15 years, I would say Huntsville really had an engineering focus. We have a ton of background with Werner von Braun and with NASA being here. And we realized kind of a little bit what you've alluded to already, John, is that it's not just the technical folks that get us into space and bring us back home safely. It's not just the technical folks who can create these amazing things that our country can be proud of. It takes everybody from support staff like myself to welders and assemblers and somebody to make the foam packaging that goes around a missile that the Army is going to use to protect our country. So we realized as a community, we needed to focus more on evening out our economic development initiatives. And we have done a really, really good job of attracting new employers to our area that can focus on every aspect of the process. So you could do start to finish here in the Huntsville community. And we're one of the top 20 growing metros, according to Forbes. So it's not just the Huntsville city itself, it's all the way around Huntsville. We're really growing and diversifying there, which means that we've made the case that we've got the talent. That's why the companies come. The companies will not come if you don't have the talent, right? So we have shown that we have the talent, but we have to keep building into that pipeline. So we are doing the same thing that we have been doing for several years. I'll say this, probably back in about 2015-ish, the Huntsville mayor decided to form a committee to work together and figure out how we could keep our young professionals here. We had a lot of really good, fresh out of college, fresh out of school talent that we weren't keeping as a community because they would leave the area at about the 5-year mark. And what we found is as a community, we were recruiting from all over the country, all the top engineering schools, all over the place. And when these young, talented people were ready to maybe start a family, they were moving back to where they came from because they didn't have roots here in our community to provide that support system that you need as a new parent. So we got together to try and decide, how do we help these people build roots here? Not just meet other people, not just get excited about the technical work that they do from 8 to 5 or the type of programs and contracts that we support. How do we get them to want to stay here, to want to be here in Huntsville? So we've done a lot of initiatives. We've really brought a variety of entertainment to the area. We've done a really good job of giving people creative outlets, because sometimes when you work in, space and government industry, you have a lot of parameters that you have to do work in. And sometimes that can diminish a little bit of your creativity. So we make sure that we still provide the creative outlets so you don't lose that. So really, we're just trying to balance, how do we keep this talent and how do we grow future talent, especially coming off of a generation that was like millennials were told college is your only option, right? Go to college, you're going to get your 4-year degree. We don't care how you do it. We don't care how much debt you accumulate. That's just what we want for you. And now we're coming back into this place where we realize a 4-year college degree isn't your only option, because we totally neglected trade. And now we're trying to beef up the trade initiatives again. So it's just the hottest topic is finding that balance, I think, right now.
That's a great point about the work-life balance. We were doing some work one time with a group. The Corps of Engineers has a big facility over in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and they have per capita probably one of the highest ratio of PhDs to local citizens. And my interaction with Vicksburg, Mississippi is I deer hunt over there. So, I mean, it's kind of like, oh, so I had the opportunity to speak with the director one time. I said, how do you find and recruit and maintain that talent? And he kind of chuckled and he goes, well, it comes down to hiring them young and marrying them local, because once they get married, then the wife's going to say, I want to be close to home. And as offhanded as the remark is, it's true. And you've got to be able to provide that. So I applaud not just the community or the corporations, but the economic development elements that I know work well together as one unit to make that happen. How did the COVID lockdown impact the Huntsville area?
So I will say a lot of us were really nervous. Thinking back to January, February, March of 2020, when we were watching it kind of come down the pipeline and like that first case hit like LA, and we were like, oh gosh, what are we going to do? We do a lot of classified work in this area. We do a lot of work that can't be done from home. So we were really nervous about making that transition to a remote work life to keep everybody safe and healthy when we knew very little about the virus, right? And so it really strained the productivity that Huntsville is used to. I think that everyone quickly adapted to, we're going to find something for you to do that's meaningful at a work from home option, but it's not something that may be fully sustainable for these type of careers. You can't weld the SLS from home. You can't do that. You can't work in a skiff from home. Like it's just not happening. So what it did do, though, I think it created clear lines for us as employers, what can be done from home, what maybe we can be flexible about, and what we absolutely hardcore bottom line only can be done here on site. And so we have those buckets of work now that we can look at and say, this is where we can be flexible. This is where we can't be flexible. And we want to offer you something that meets your needs, but we need you to meet our needs too. It's definitely challenged the way that we approach work. I think it's impacted recruiting a lot. For folks who support specifically the DoD related work, if they got comfortable working from home, which I don't blame them, because I appreciate the ability to work from home myself. I don't know that I ever want to go back to like a full office environment. They started looking at other opportunities across the country that would allow them to work remotely, which oftentimes meant giving up that DoD support. And, a lot of times if you work in that DoD and space industry, it's because you really believe in the mission, and it's because you're really proud to support that mission. So they had to make some hard decisions about what their values and motivators are, and how they're going to be a part of that market. So we do have a population of people who are considering leaving this entire market just to have a tech job that they can work remotely at. It has also made people, I've read a lot of research about, how this has like impacted our brains and how we behave as humans. And turns out that our brains were not built for this much uncertainty. 24 months of a global pandemic has really challenged our brain in ways that we've never been challenged before. No matter what your opinion or your theory or your COVID safety practices were, that has been challenged in every one of us. And so we're in a place where people are deciding what is most important to them and what do they need to remove from their life. And some people came to the realization that they don't like what they do for a living, or that they don't like the employer they work for right now. And so it has caused a huge amount of people, you see a lot of headlines like the Great Resignation, but it's really more the Great Reshuffle, right? Because people aren't giving up on work entirely. They're just deciding this work is not for me, for one reason or another. So whether it's to enter a new field, to go learn something new, or it's to find a different employer because XYZ, they've decided this is my threshold for this. I'm not gonna sacrifice anything else. But if you think of yourself for just a moment and like what you could give up today, is it going to be your family? Probably not. Is it going to be your fun stuff and your hobbies? Probably not. So naturally, you're going to look to work and say, these are all the things I don't like about my job. I'm just going to go find a new one. Everyone's hiring. I'm going to go find a new job. And I'm going to tell this new employer what my deal breakers are. And I'm going to get either a better work-life balance, a better paycheck, projects that I'm more interested in, whatever it is that people are looking for. They have a little bit more of that negotiating leverage right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. One of the questions Kevin Berry had is, how are y'all helping to expand the support for ancillary support systems, so marketing, legal, accounting, even medical? The way that you and I met is I was talking to a group called We Care TLC, and they provide on-site medical support, basically put a clinic inside companies, and it's used as a benefit instead of just traditional insurance. They provide doctors or nurse practice or whatever right there on site. So it's trying to look at the approach from outside the box, if you will. But how have you seen efforts to recognize and address these elements, these support elements?
So We Care is an excellent example because it's not just about providing a benefit anymore. It's about the benefit and the convenience to the employee, right? And to the employee's family, because those type of things are open to the employee's family as well. I have to give huge credit to our economic development team because they are being very intentional about all of those spaces. And we have revitalized our downtown to bring in some of that exact stuff, some more legal, some more marketing, some more accounting. Our medical footprint is growing insanely, not just from a traditional medical standpoint, but also from like a biotech standpoint. Hudson Alpha was kind of the launch pad for that. And it's about finding ways to make all of these resources work together to create a better environment for everyone who's involved in the entire process, and just making this a holistic approach to what needs to happen. So they've just been very, very intentional about making sure that we no longer ever get ourselves in a situation where we're focused on one sector of industry.
Yeah, that's critically important. And that you can either learn from like the great reshuffle, whatever we're going to call it. We can either learn from it, which is actually wisdom, or else we can experience it over and over and over again. And so I applaud y'all's efforts collectively and individually for doing that. I'm going to move to Les now, but I want you to stay on because we've got some things I need both of y'all to address. Les Davis is got a military background, military recruiter. He's gotten into the trades. Like I said, my son is just finishing up a year-long program there, and it's just getting out, and it is fantastic knowing that he is going out to a job market to where it's just is an insatiable appetite for what he's doing, and like Brady said earlier, it's an art as well as a science, as well as everything else. You just don't stumble into it. So Les, tell us about Tulsa Welding School and all the things you're seeing in the market.
Yeah, I would tell you, trades in itself, I started working, recruiting for trades back in 2002 when I retired with automotive diesel. And I thought that was pretty cool stuff because just the advancement of like the onboard computers and cars and everything. But then I get into welding after I sold my business, and really, this is some cool stuff that's happening with Tulsa. I love the background of Tulsa. It started in 1949. The two welders seeing the need way back then of welders, and then it it grew, and we added our first school in 2001, which was in Jacksonville, and then in 2014, our third school in Houston, Texas. We actually have a fourth school, but it's more of a heating and air conditioning school. Then we added our welding curriculum out in Phoenix. So we're kind of spread all over the United States from coast to coast, because the need of the welding is incredible, John. I mean, when we start looking to our graduates, we have graduates that are doing specialized, just like Brady was doing. He was talking about specialized metals. And one young lady that you probably see her on more commercials than anything else, she works 8 months a year, and then she does this archery tournament next door. Her and her husband this is their life, and they love their life. So not only can you have a nice work-life balance being a welder, but you can choose where you want to go too. So it's not an industry people think like that about, but it is. It's fantastic. I mean, we have people from all over the country, from all aspects of the industry, hiring our graduates. I mean, we're talking from infrastructure. We've seen that bridge collapsed in Pennsylvania, or in Pittsburgh a few weeks ago. These are things that our welders and our country's welders, and maybe some of our graduates, are going to start working on really soon. Rebuilding our bridges, rebuilding our railroads, rebuilding our roads. Then in manufacturing, we're going to be placing a lot of folks in manufacturing too. So Tulsa Welding School has this huge footprint all over the country, and we're placing a ton of graduates in really great industries right now.
All right. So being in Jacksonville, you're at the top of essentially the Florida space capsule. So I know you're in a hot spot as well. So what's happening there? I mean, who specifically is hiring now, and where's it going?
Well, we had just a couple weeks ago, we had SpaceX come to us and they said, we need to hire 200 welders. And we love that, because we can supply them as many welders as they want. We also have Los Alamos Nuclear, or the National Laboratory out in Los Alamos. They came to us. Over the next 2 years, they want to hire 200, 300, 400 welders. Got to find the right folks with those guys, because they need a very extensive background check. So those guys are hard to find. When I said, why don't we turn to veterans? That's my focus, is bringing veterans into Tulsa and making sure they get placed in great jobs. So, because veterans can pass a background check. And so this is an opportunity for everybody, but I think veterans would fit that mold pretty well. And so we have SpaceX, we have the shipping industry, shipbuilders, Ingalls, we have Crowley. I just talked to Crowley yesterday, and they'll be on campus soon. Ingalls is there today, hiring. So,
yeah, I got the lead.
Hey, when you get a chance, I need to introduce you to someone else that's on this call named David Leyva. David is military lieutenant colonel over at Camp Shelby Joint Forces Training Center, and David worked with me to stand up a training program focused on software over there. But he is standing up a different training program, but y'all need to talk. I mean, because that's where both your hearts are, and it's you've got people that are disciplined and that like I say, that have incredible background already. And one of the things that I learned working with David on some stuff is that if you can find people to do simple stuff like a cleaning crew that can pass a background check and get a clearance to get access to facilities, they can write their own check there. So
yeah.
You find welders that you get them into Los Alamos, they've got to get a secret clearance probably.
Yeah, high. What'd she say? Q. I think she said Q level. I don't know the level of top secret clearance off the top of my head, but she was like, yeah, we got to get a Q, whatever it was. It's very high, and she was, and these two recruiters, everywhere I go now, they're always there because there's such a push. They got to have 7,000. They're trying to find 7,000 people to bring in that facility over the next 5 years. So,
wow. And what were you, when we were talking this week, you were saying 75,000 openings country right now?
I didn't hear it. John, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question.
Hang on, somebody is.
Debbie.
Hey, Debbie. Debbie. All right, thank you. I'm just waiting for my dog to start barking in the background too, so I apologize. Everybody working at home. Sorry, tell me. We were discussing about the needs. I mean, how big the market vacuum is right now for people.
Yeah, so every year we end up roughly about 78,000 welders short every single year. That's just this year's number. Then you add the growing need for welders over the next 10 years, and it's going to be a very nice market for welders coming up, because it's just, supply and demand, of course. But so there is a definite need. There's a huge shortage of welders, and right now it's sitting at about 78,000 per year we can't fill.
All right, so let me give you an opportunity for a shameless plug. Tell me how long the program is, and what are they, when they come out of your program, what kind of professional certifications do they have?
Well, at Tulsa, what's nice about Tulsa, it's quick, right? So you can come out of Tulsa if you just want to do our professional welder course, 7 months. If you want to add our pipe fitting course, and it's just an added 3 months. So in 10 months, you can have a nice trained welder with both professional welding, where it just comes in and it's a basic weld, or then you can go into pipe fitting. We also have a welding inspector program. So if you want to learn how to be like quality control or welder, learn some non-destructive testing techniques, that's an additional 3 months. So you can get in and out of Tulsa Welding School in basically 14 months with an associate's degree with that inspector program that we have too. So, and we only go to school 5 hours a day. So if somebody wants to come in and just learn welding, what's nice about that 5 hour a day, if we have a young person that is maybe having trouble trying to weld around that pipe, we'll let him stay there all day long, just burn as much rod as he wants, learning how to weld with it. Work side by side with our instructors to get that weld right so he can pass his comp.
One other thing I'd like to point out from personal experience with y'all is when I was touring the facility in Jacksonville, I was really surprised that there were a lot of females in there. And I thought that was great to see, that it's a broad diversity of people, and, it's just healthy.
It absolutely is. We're seeing a huge uptick in female welders. I like seeing that, because women seem to be more patient with their welds, so they're not getting that excited, and they got a much steadier hand. The military found this out years ago when they started recruiting more pilots. So women pilots are more patient to wait for the target, and they're steadier hand. So same thing with welding. I mean, they got that real steady, nice hand, a little bit more patient than us guys, and they can lay some really pretty beads down, as we're noticing. And it's a great career. Just like one of the, like I was saying about the young lady that's on most of our commercials, she has a phenomenal career going on with her and her family.
Okay, I see David has his hand up. David, unmute.
Well, I heard my name, so I figured I had to say something. David Leva here, and I'm actually, as we speak, I'm in Daytona Beach, where it was supposed to be storming, but it's about as sunny as it gets. The one thing that you mentioned, we do have an initiative going on right now with the local community college at Camp Shelby. And one of and it fits into our critical path and our lines of effort. And one thing that we're discovering, as I'm sure, you don't have to be in this space, but the initial lure into the reserves, into the Guard, is the opportunity to have funding for a 4-year degree. But what we end up finding is that that the retention rate isn't as high as it could be, and so we're starting to shift focus. And this demand is coming from Ingalls, the shipyard, the demand for welders, the demand for pipe fitters, but really looking at this holistically. And maybe this is just how I see it, the southern portion of the United States offers quite a bit in terms of human capital, in terms of rural areas and places where you can do a lot of the what's going to be needed. And I think that's one of the reasons why Texas was very attractive to Elon Musk's group, and why Florida remains attractive. But I can very easily see how that some soldiers who do end up getting their certifications in welding and the other trades just shift industry. The skill set is still there, but I'm sure there's going to be some specific requirements. But looking at it regionally, I think the region is set and primed for this sort of futuristic view. And my hope is that unfortunately political boundaries don't stymie the potential for the growth, because I really don't think people companies look at that. I think they're looking at an 8-hour drive or a 2-hour flight, as opposed to having to go from one end of the United States to the other. And I think as we look at our soldiers and every effort we can make for them to have meaningful careers, that will translate into higher retention. I hate to say we're not altruistic, but there is an evil genius part to this. Soldiers who have meaningful careers, the civilian side end up staying in longer, and if anything, they just transfer from one guard in one state to another to continue their military career. So, as I'm hearing the conversation, know that at least at our level here at Camp Shelby in Mississippi, we are thinking 10, 15 years down the road.
Also, Les, something that I see Debbie's on here. Debbie works with us, and she brought to my attention that in Pascagoula, I guess it's Ingalls, they are converting some floating oil rigs into launch facilities for SpaceX.
Wow!
And I mean, they did one. They're working on the other one now, and it's critical for us collectively to get the word out that everyone can connect into the space economy. And it's not just astrophysicists, it's STEM, but it's also non-STEM. So it's open to everyone. You just got to figure out where to plug in. And while I'm sitting here looking at his picture, Kevin is working on a project that a webinar we're going to have in a month or so. At least, Kevin, I hope you are talking about non-equity financing, because that's another segue out. How do you grow the business? You've got to be able to have access to capital, and venture capital is obviously the most expensive and the most fickle. So anyway, back to topic.
John, if I could, yeah, could I add or build on something that David has said earlier about military transitioning and then guard and reserve? And I have the unique job, and I love what I do. I go to military bases every week, and I talk to transitioning service members about their next career. And a lot of them, they're trying to find their next fit. They're trying to find where they want to go in their next career. And it's so it's such a neat thing to be part of that, when I can expose them to the trades, because maybe it wasn't something maybe they were thinking about, or they didn't think that maybe welding could lead up to a career with a SpaceX, or some kind of stellar position like this. And so when you introduce these things, it really gets them thinking about a career they wouldn't have thought of before being exposed to it. And so it's great to see them go from what am I going to do, like for example, my in 2002, when I got my retirement orders, it was like, what am I going to do now? It was just like a couple of days of, what's going on? What am I going to do? I went ahead, went into recruiting. Well, the same thing with these folks, whether they're in 4 years or whether they're in 20. Man, what am I going to do next? So it's nice to offer them, hey, here's what's out there right now, and you just here's some great training in the skilled trades, whether it's welding or whether it's maybe auto, diesel, or anywhere in the trades. They didn't at one point they didn't think it could get them a good career that would support their families, which is it really is a great career. They can support their family and all, just like Brady said earlier. And then you can buy your house, you can have your toys, you can travel, and support your family. That guy is, well, you talk about inspiring and talking about a guy that's a role model. Yeah, I think he's. I want to bring him up to Tulsa to have him talk to our students. He's really motivational.
Cool. All right, I have a question for everyone then. What can we do individually and collectively to promote this message that this segment of the economy is inclusive and it's available? Anyone?
Les, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Oh, please go ahead. I've been talking long enough. There we go.
Okay. So my advice is really simple. And I would give this advice to any industry, but it is engaging at the high school level. It is engaging really early and making the opportunities known. I graduated from a very small high school. I didn't graduate in Huntsville. I relocated here from Northeast Arkansas, and there was like 86 people in my graduating class. The only thing that we knew to do after high school, besides go off to college like our parents wanted us to do, was we could be a nurse, we could be a teacher, or we could go work at the steel mill that kept that town alive. Had people come to us and told us about all of these other great things that you can get plugged into or that you can learn about, we probably would have had a variety of career professionals, but a lot of people took those 3 routes because those were the only things that we knew about. And when you think of everything that touches space, from, obsolescence to being an astronaut, there is opportunity for every student in a high school right now. They just don't know about it. And so you don't just have to go and start, getting your message in front of the students. You have to start talking to the teachers and building a partnership with the counselors too, so that they're getting the right information to put in front of these students and help them make decisions about how to learn the skill they need to plug into the part of the space community that they can excel at.
Tim and Foundation Future were working on putting together a proposal to engage with community colleges and I believe high schools who are involved in that as well, to start telling the story and help, like you said, identifying where you can connect, how is it relevant to you? Because that's what kind of stymies me every once in a while. So you start talking to people, and like I said, with the astronauts, everybody wants to be an astronaut. Well, astronaut's not the only job. There are a few, but there are thousands and thousands and thousands of other ways to engage in this industry. And it's just another logical step. It is a very vibrant industry that's right out there, and it's going to grow. As Kevin pointed out, 2040 is projected to be larger than the oil and gas today. So we've got to learn to tell our story better.
So if we're preparing for 2040, we got to start doing it today, because if we don't invest and develop that talent, they're not going to magically appear.
That's true. That's very true. Anybody else want to chime in? Just take yourself off mute and say hello. Well, okay then. Les, what else you got?
Well, I agree that we got to expose, especially right now, you're talking about exposing and getting ready for 2040. Well, this is just like she said, we've got to expose these kids now. This is, we got to grow them up and say the trades are good. Welding, which I remember, I took a wood shop in 7th grade. That exposed me to working with my hands and enjoying that and seeing what I could build. It was an ugly bookshelf, but at least I made something, and exposing us to that kind of work. Exposing it in the high school, middle school. The other thing is what we've developed at Tulsa is virtual reality goggles, because just like we were shut down too for a very short period of time at Tulsa Welding School during COVID. So our CEO worked with a gaming company so we could get the background and so our virtual welding class now looks so real. John, you'd love it. It is. I mean, when I did it, I thought I was actually in the booth. I got so focused on that weld, and I about fell over because I thought I was going to put my elbow on the counter, and I didn't. And it was, of course, nothing's there. But it was such a great thing to teach. I mean, you're turning up your welding machine. You're getting it's like Brady said earlier, you got to get your heat right. I mean, this thing is cool, and we're leading. And we copyrighted. It's fantastic. And we're going to start giving it to all of our students this summer with their July class. So they got it. So if they need practice welding, they can take their goggles home, and they can do it virtually every single night for as long as they want, just to get that feel and the visual down. The other thing to do is teach them about and tell them about technology. What's coming about? I mean, very simply, that if you can, if you take a welder, like the guy that graduates Tulsa Welding School, you expose him to the CAD, Brady said earlier, or you teach him how to program that robot. And so now you got a guy that understands welding. He understands how to program a robot to weld, and he can control that robot from an iPad. These are things happening right now. And if we go into these middle schools and these high schools and saying, here's some really cool stuff, high tech stuff. I mean, you got to learn how to weld though, because you got to teach this thing how to do it. And I think it'll open up and get these kids really thinking. And the one thing about what's great about our youth, they're always thinking to how to make something better for their job. I mean, no matter, it's blown me away. I mean, ever since you see them with art, you see it with our street rod building, and you can also see it with welding and what they're doing in that aspect. I think it's right, but we got to expose them right now, just as we said earlier.
And you and I were speaking earlier about when you're a welder that's in a hostile environment, which space is the epitome of a hostile environment, you're not going to be able to send people, or at least enough people up there to do that. So a lot of this will be robotic, like undersea welding. I mean, the reason it pays so well is because your opportunity to give your life for your job is so high. So,
yeah.
I think that is the next logical step there. And that's fascinating. That'll be interesting to watch it evolve. Okay, I think that we're just about out of time. April, what do you think? April is my gatekeeper here. She's the one. I have plenty of time. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Well, do we have anything else to, let's see, what do you think about SpaceX auto weld? I think it's great. What do you think? Les?
Well, they're right now they're coming to us and asking for welders with sometime, some way we're going to have to get enough starships. Oh, for starships. Well, let's launch some robots in space and do it virtual. That's some cool stuff there. That's the future, John. I think that's the future of it.
Well, it's the next step. Because when you start putting things, if we actually do put things on the moon, your resupply, if you get sick on the moon, that's not good, or Mars. So you're going to have to do things. You're going to have to be able to do a lot of this stuff virtually, robotically.
Well, yeah, just think of what was it, maybe 30 years ago, drones were like, we never thought that would ever, well, I never thought it happened. So maybe I shouldn't speak for everybody, but now we can fly planes from Nellis Air Force Base, or these drones from Nellis, anywhere in the world. Once they take off from our military base, the folks at Nellis take over, and they're hitting targets, all over the world. So it's the same thing we can do here with their welding.
April and I, in prepping for the meeting, she was telling me about how her husband, on submarines working, I think in the missile area, and when he retired out, he became an electrician, and she said is just absolutely loving it. So more good things about, I'm a huge advocate for supporting our vets. What's the name of the program you were telling me about?
Oh yeah, Skill Bridge.
Skill Bridge.
Absolutely. So the Skill Bridge is an opportunity for companies to come in and either do an apprenticeship or train them the way they want them trained when they get out, so they'll have a job opportunity with that company. Or you can use that apprenticeship time to do maybe a 30 to 60 day interview with the guy, and then offer that veteran a job if you like him and it's a good fit. It's a win-win with Skill Bridge. I think it's one of the best programs the DoD's ever come up with.
Okay.
That's a really quick synopsis. You go on the Skill Bridge DoD site and get more detail of it. But it's just a great way to communicate with veterans and any military base, and find out what skill bridges are out there for, and maybe be a company. There's all kinds of defense contractors that are over on, probably a few of them in Huntsville, I would imagine.
All right, Kristina, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, provide your information, and number two, if someone was looking to either engage to find opportunities in Huntsville, or or engage with the company over there, what's the best what's the best portal for that?
Okay, so I will drop my contact info in the chat, and I love to talk about Huntsville and what we have going on over here. And I realize I'm very biased, but we really are a great place to be right now, a great place to consider. Really good resource if you are looking for work or to connect with, any of the 50 plus space companies that we have actively growing in Huntsville, would be to go to our chamber website, which is just asmartplace.com. We have a lot of great information there for different career paths that are available. We have really good industry partners that work with the chamber and show up to events and sponsor events. And there's plenty of networking opportunity just to get to know people who work at these locations, so you can learn a little bit from the inside. And then we also, I should have mentioned this earlier, we have a great group called The Catalyst. And they provide a lot of resources. We have a lot of small businesses here in the Huntsville area too. The government has put out a lot of initiatives to make some of these bigger players share some work with some smaller companies, and you can apply for different set-asides that fit your company representation. And we have a great group in The Catalyst that provides a lot of resources for navigating being a government contractor in any of those areas, anything to do with entrepreneurship. All of those are like free resources. So I can drop asmartplace.com and the Catalyst website in there, because if you are looking for a job, or if you're looking to bring a business to this area, those are the two places that I would start, hands down.
Okay, thank you. Les?
Well, I'll do the same. I'll put my contact information in the chat, but you can reach me anytime by email at les.davis@tws.edu, or you can go to our website at tws.edu and watch the videos. You can watch some classroom stuff. We got some really cool videos from our instructors on YouTube to what they're teaching at the school. And then there's also folks that have went on and had great careers there on YouTube, or things like that. But yeah, you can reach me at les.davis@tws.edu.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and I appreciate your time. And if you need any, if we can do anything to help from our side, please let us know. April, I think that I think we've covered everything here. If there are any questions, please speak now. Well, okay then. All right, guys. Thank y'all. I hope you have a great rest of the week. And I really appreciate the opportunity to work with y'all. So have a good day.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, sir.